Well, good evening, everyone. Here we are again. Me, Guilherme Dias.
And
Faye
I
Waddington. So today, Faye will be leading us through a marvelous subject that is the quality of mediumistic message. But before she does that, today I learned how to do that properly. So Faye will be very happy with me. So let me show you guys the normal slides. So here we are. Today is the 42nd event we are together. We are part of Spiritist Society of London, myself and Faye. SSL is part of BUS, British Union of Spiritist Society, and we are pleased to be here with the support of Cardiac Radio. So now we're going to move to the subject of tonight. So now I'll leave with Faye. All yours, Faye.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be talking to you again. And I think we try in Time to Talk, we try to bring topics within the scope of mediumship. We try to bring aspects of mediumship that could be interesting. And there are always so many questions. And the first questions that I hear more often is, once I managed and I know that I can establish a communication with spirits, should I carry on? And what do I do with it? What do you think?
That's a very important question.
Mm.
Because quite often we face that question ourselves. We are not prepared to any phenomena. We are not prepared to become a medium, after all.
Mm.
And what should I do? First thing that comes to my mind, Faye, is that I need to find proper support, the basis to build my structure or not. But with the proper support, I will have the minimum knowledge to allow me to make the right decision. I don't like to push anyone to make a decision left or right. The decision is entirely to the person. But I believe the minimum level of knowledge must be given to the person so he or she can make the right decision. So if I'm facing that situation, something just happened, what should I do now?
Mm.
My first answer would be trying to find someone that is familiar with what is going on. And if that person could at least point you in the right direction to where you can find something that is safe, because there's a lot of information out there that's not safe. So I think that would be my first thought. What about you?
Yeah, same thing. I would suggest, because that was a question that I had many months ago. But at the beginning was like that. Well, once I crossed the barrier of the fear of contact, the fear of the communication, and once I felt a bit more reassured, well, I think, all right, there's something to be done here. So who do I talk to? Where do I seek information? And people would say, well, maybe you should go to this or that center. But what if there isn't a center. The first thing I found was try and read Kodak's books, Alan Kodak's books, from the start to get the ground, to find myself, to see where I found myself and how much of that could teach me or make sense to me. Because if it didn't make sense, at least I had a question to ask someone.
Faye, one thing you mentioned, that you went to Kardec's work to try to find reasoning and a safe harbor for your questions. And I would like to say that mediumship is natural and can happen to anyone. You don't need to be a spiritist or become a spiritist to be facing a mediumistic phenomena.
No.
But regardless your creed, your religion, if you want to use or not, Kardec is like a task list, if you like. Mm-hmm. You will be ticking points to bring you to the minimum level of knowledge, equilibrium, and even perhaps quality in what you perhaps decide to do. So use that as a reference. Doesn't matter where you're coming from or what you want to go, but that is a good reference.
Thank you for that. That was precisely the case because I wasn't a spiritist. I wasn't in a spiritist family. I had spiritists I had spiritualist tendencies. I mean, I liked that sort of, that line of thought and line of living, but not, it wasn't like it was in a consistently spiritist environment. But so the topic, the subject had been brought about by other lines of philosophy and practice. But what I found is that it was structured enough to make sense. So like you say, it's like a task. So you go, well, first you do this, first you learn that, think, consider this. Because even say, you do that, they say, no, consider that. Does that make sense? It's like a workflow, isn't it? A flow chart, so to speak.
Something came to sorry.
No.
Go on. Something came to my mind, and I'll share something with you. You said that you were facing those questions, right? What should I do, or something on those lines. And I was born in a Spiritist family, and I always had contact with this kind of environment. I've started at a very early age. I started to participate in mediumship meetings, and nothing happened to me. And I started to feel like, well, I'm surrounded by mediums. I'm the only one that's not medium. And I was like that for almost 30 years. Mm-hmm. Surrounded by mediums, back and forth, meetings, you name it. But I never felt like I was a medium. Until one day something has happened. Mm. So that was one thing. That was a personal situation. There was another situation that I was part of a meeting where another person was in the meeting for years, and he never felt any mediumship symptom, if you like. One day he started. So why I'm saying that, there is no period, there is no time. This is not driven by us in theory, right? So I may be ready in 6 months, I may be ready in 10 years. As I said, in my case, I was for almost 30 years surrounded by mediums. I never had anything that could make me believe I was a medium. So it was a bit different.
Yeah. It's funny, yeah. And because another thing that I felt that and today, seeing today, at the time I felt I was completely a fish out of water. I really didn't belong things, but everything that was spiritual, spirit was had a very strong appeal to me, and it was like the sacredness of living, of being there. So of respecting life, respecting the planet. But things did not happen where I was. They happened outside, out in the street, out in the mountains, in my workplace, my little studio. And so things did not quite fit what sometimes I'd be told, no, it's got to be this way, you've got to go that way, you draw this line, you draw that line. It doesn't always work that way. The only thing that was consistent was the information, because I could take that information anywhere and find people who would be able to advise me. Not necessarily in any particular place, but people who had the same or much higher background than mine, because then I could understand what they were saying. And these people set me free. They gave me, look, this is the guidance. You can go this way, feel free to go this way, but you will make your choices and you find your path. And in your path, you will find other people along the way. And I think that's how it developed. I found the right people along the way as I was ready to meet them.
I will never change my speech in regards to what I consider as the safest method, as the safest start point, if you like, for mediumship. It's Kardec. It's the medium's book. Right. But Kardec himself says that we need to rely on the practice. We need to rely on the science evolution and everything else. So always use medium's book as a reference, your safe harbor, if you like.
Yeah.
And as we move along, if you feel like something is happening again, if you are able to establish a routine, if you are able to identify something that perhaps is not clearly written as you thought you would in Codex, it doesn't mean you are wrong. It doesn't mean that it does not exist. It means that you need to study a bit further. You need to consider other possibilities and referring to Kardec. And chances are that you'll be safe.
Right. And once that was established, I said, okay, communication established. I know I can. I know this is the guidance. I know where I can go. Now, what do I make of the communication itself?
I have something very particular to say, especially for the beginners. You receive the information, you receive the communication, but you don't need to speak out loud to everyone to hear. You don't need to distribute that to everyone.
No.
Sometimes the message received is for you. Sometimes the message received was just a way for the spirit to express himself, and that was it. Something that is very common, especially in the beginning, is that I'm a medium, I have superpowers now, and I will start to tell everyone what I see, what I feel, what I believe, and that's not the way to go. Not at all. We, as a medium, we are responsible for everything we say, for everything I share.
Yeah.
If, for example, Faye, I can see that there is a spirit following you. Why should I say that? I should keep my mouth shut, even if I see that. Okay. There's a very fine line between being a medium and remain charitable.
Yeah.
Think how the person would react with a letter, with a comment, even with your face. Because if the person knows that you are medium and you start to stare her for some time, the other person may start to think, oops, something's wrong with me. Today I have this. A medium needs to be very careful.
You remind me of something that it wasn't trouble, and it wasn't really funny, but it was. There was a point that I was always very shy, and people said that I had very busy eyes. My eyes, I had difficulty. I didn't realize that they wouldn't just focus on one point, and but then when I was more free in my studies and all that and my practice, and I was talking to people, and sometimes people say, why do you keep looking over my shoulder? Why do you keep looking at my shoulder? Can you see anything? Who's there? And I said, no, oh no, sorry. And then these were signs for me, focus. That's what my spiritual teachers would say: focus, observe, learn. And if that wasn't enough, I felt somebody that was very worried, as if he was being chased. That's why you keep looking over my shoulder. No, sorry, I was distracted, sorry. And made a conscious effort to look at his face and stay there.
This morning I was reading a book and reminds me of something I knew from the past about Chico Xavier, that in my opinion is one of the greatest mediums we ever had in the world. And he says that a medium must be a filter. You see, but you do not demonstrate. You hear, but you do not expose. You receive a letter, but sometimes you have to keep. Because we have to imagine, it's like a chess game. You need to see a few steps ahead to realize what your action may generate. And being a medium is to help others. If something you received will not help the person, why will you say, why will you mention anything anyway? Why will you change something? So we need to be very careful with our actions. As a mediums, we are there to help, only to help. And if something we do does not help, perhaps we are not trying to help. We are trying to be famous. We are trying to be on the spotlight at least for 5 minutes or something. So we need to be very careful, because we are responsible for everything that goes through us.
Yeah.
And when I'm saying that, the way I'm saying is because I want to bring another subject. We are responsible for everything that may be done with what we receive. But the medium himself, he or she should not try to analyze his own communication. Because one of the main problems, especially in the beginning, is that people start to analyze things like an indoctrinator, if you like. And they start to analyze, that's me, that's not me, that's right, that's wrong. And the medium is supposed to be a medium. It's supposed to receive the information and pass the information. And the group that will work together, they will analyze if the message received is a positive message, if it's not a positive message, if you should do something with that, if you should put that on your drawer and leave like that. there's a lot of things we would like to do, but sometimes it's better not to do anything because the results may be not positive as we would like to.
Yeah, this again, this takes me to the next point of that when I was reflecting about it, especially thinking, well, mediums are they restricted to what they can receive? And when I say receive, I see seeing, hearing, writing, whichever form of expression. And if you allow me, that I found something from a friend, from a source actually, that says that the medium. What do you make of this? It says it's about messages. We're like an antenna. An antenna does not question which does not question what hits its sensors. It only is there as a receptor, as a receiver, for someone else to work out meaning and relevance of the signals. And say we need to activate the correct mechanism of reading and learning, not only to keep the good value of the messages, but also as a strong source of self-preservation.
I agree.
And compassion to ourselves as spirits as well. What do you think?
I agree with that. I would do some mild changes in the sentences to give a more broader understanding. Yes, we are antennas, if you like. We receive all information. We should not say, this message I will not receive. But after we receive is a different thing. Then we need to give to the person that can help us to analyze better what I should do with this message. Because if this message is positive, is one thing. If the message is not positive, we need to work as a filter, like Chico says. So, yes, we receive every signal, but what we do with the signal afterwards is a different thing, right? And there's one thing on those lines, Faye. A medium is a medium 24/7. He does not choose, I'm a medium between 6 and 7 every Wednesday. No, it's not like that. You are a medium 24/7. But we are not an open bar even. If you think we are not an open bar. In UK, we are not a pub, open pub. But why I'm saying that? There are spirits everywhere. We need to educate ourselves to even perceive the spirits, hear, feel the spirits, but we should be careful. We should be careful with ourselves and those around us. If you feel like there's a spirit trying to communicate with you when you are in the supermarket, will you accept it? Probably not. Will you do that when you are driving? Probably not.
No.
So we need to establish boundaries. It's not lack of charity, not at all. What we should do, yes, my brother, my sister, I hear you. I know you're suffering, but I cannot help you right now. Come with us to our meeting. We're going to be talking to you in our meeting. And that's the right place where you should endeavor to do it. And remember that you can do a prayer anywhere. even driving.
Yeah.
Then second prayer, asking for a higher intervention for that spirit that are desperate, is good enough to bring some peace to the spirit and to let you drive safely. All right?
Mhm.
So we need to be careful. We need to be charitable. It is a fine balance between both, but we are not an open bar. We need to narrow down where we can practice, where we can perform our activities safely, right?
Right. And when you're saying that about the quality of this communication, so when you said, well, is it a positive or a negative message? It doesn't mean positive or negative doesn't mean it's necessarily bad or reliable or unreliable. So how can we tell the
Let,
difference?
let
Because
me
negative, positive is not, but reliable, unreliable. Mm.
It's not too difficult, really, because how can you consider a person you know reliable? You create parameters to analyze his attitudes, his behavior, the way he acts, right? So receiving a message from the spiritual world is almost like that. Normally, when you receive the first one, okay, when you receive the second, the third, the fourth, you start to create a pattern to identify what this particular spirit's trying to tell you. If you are familiar with the spirit for like 10 years working the spirit, despite that you recognize his energy, sometimes even his voice, but you also recognize the way he works, the pattern when they do something. So it is practically the same as you do in your office environment.
Mm-hmm.
You receive an order from your boss and you say, well, that was not him. I know he wouldn't say that. He wouldn't do that, something like that, right? And I'll bring an example here, especially during pandemic period that we all had recently.
Yeah.
I could see a lot of messages with a lot of beautiful spirits signing those messages. The origin, I could not even evaluate where they came from. I did not know the center. I did not know those mediums. But starting to read, let's say, for example, Bezerra de Menezes' message.
Mm-hmm.
You start to read the message. 85% of the message, very positive. 2% of the message is scaring a lot of people. And then a few other percent of the message, give and take, yeah, not too bad. Well, as far as I know, he would not bring a message to create more terror in a situation where we were all terrified.
Mm-hmm.
So in that situation, say, oops, do you know the alarm started blinking and say, well,
Yeah, yes.
there's something wrong here, right? But this evaluation is very subtle. Though the spirits can be very subtle, and the evaluation need to be very thorough. And someone that's not familiar with that kind of analysis may not analyze that as it should. And sometimes when we have situations like that, try to refrain to your own, not to your own judgment. Speak to people that are more experienced than you.
Mm-hmm.
There's always someone that you can share your doubts, you can share your questions. And in the end, perhaps you may agree or disagree. But it is I strongly recommend this exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Not only for messages with nice signatures from spirits that we all would like to receive messages, but to every message. Because one little line in a message, in a page, may create problems for the person, for the institution. And if you publicize that on the internet, because nowadays it's very easy,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
who knows who can be in distress because of this message.
One thing I found that was always very reassuring of being on safe ground was the fact that in my learning, well, I'm always learning, but in that crucial initial phase, there was never anything to rush me to nothing that was confrontational, nothing of accusations of any sort. I was never criticized, but I was invited to consider things from a different aspect over and over again until I was ready to give one more step. So it was highly educational all the time. And I remembered when I something that was really interesting at a time when I would get very emotional, and sometimes did, and it was a phase of life that easily got me very emotional. And I said, I don't think I can. I don't think I can cope with it. I can stop it. And the lesson was, look, try whenever you feel like, as if there's no answer, try to think and let all of this go back as if every tear could join to an ocean of calm. And then you can see what lies ahead. Because, this were things like that. Well, calm down, let's think. So I was never heavily criticized for anything. But sometimes I know how your mind works. It works against you. So calm down, study.
You said the word that I like it most, study, to start with. Any serious medium or indoctrinator has a duty to study. Not now, but always. Kardec is the stronghold, is the basis, is the basics. You should know Kardec. And then there are a lot of marvelous works around there. Chico Xavier, Joseph Glepper, Manuel Filomeno de Miranda. We have so many. They are very, very important to know as well. And but when you were speaking, I make a note of a few things here, Faye. You said about consider different aspects. I strongly vouch for it. Consider different aspects. Create your own method of evaluation based on Kardec's. And when I mean Kardec, I'm not talking about one book, 2 books, because some people don't even know how many books Kardec had. And I'm talking about the Spiritist magazine and everything. So there's a lot of material you can research Kardec. And even when you hear someone saying, Kardec said that, have a look yourself. Try to find what he really said. And those that have the facility to go to the original in French, sometimes even better, go to the French and to truly understand what he wanted to say, right? But that's another subject. So consider different aspects. Why I am saying that? Because you also spoke about criticism. Unfortunately, there's a lot of criticism, even within the Spiritism. Some of criticism is positive, because it will make us grow. Some criticism may not be so positive. On the end, if we know how to take that on board, we can grow with that. But we should study by ourselves. We should put an additional effort to try to learn a little bit more, to try to truly understand what they mean with something. Because my interpretation may not be the same as yours. And There's a lot of people that advocate things, and sometimes they not be 100% correct. So you need to create that method of investigation, of analysis, of evaluation, if you like.
Yeah.
When you said, Faye, about criticism, especially in the beginning, one of the things we hear a lot is animism.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of mediums never started because of fear of animism.
They were dismissed. We're dismissed all from the film start. No. But you know, how can you tell?
Faye, you know, I've started when I was 15 years old in leadership meetings, and I can say that I need animism in the meeting, especially on the beginning. I need that. It's positive. I'm talking about animism, not something else. The problem is animism is not well understood by a lot of people. Even though when someone is criticized or, you know, his communication is only animism, we hear that a lot over the years. I need to remind us all that we are spirits, and animism is our own spirit. So the first thing we need to do is to, yes, continue. It's a good exercise. Carry on. Because the animism is used to clean the channels as well. And we have to remember that sometimes we have to help the incarnated spirits before anything coming through the medium. So animism is positive, depending on your knowledge, your exposure, and how you deal with that. Let me say, I'm just arriving here. Hello, I think I'm a medium. All right, sir, you can be a medium, but you cannot. We don't tolerate animism here. Oh, what is animism, sir? Fake message, fake news. Well, how do I know if it's fake or not to start with? I don't know nothing. I know very little. And we don't learn that in books. We don't learn how to identify what is animism, how to analyze a message in a book. We learn that with the practice, in the meeting, with exposure. So let's say that guy that just came here trying to be a medium, and the other guy said, no, we don't tolerate animism here. All right, that's too much for me. I prefer not to be a medium. I'll go somewhere else. I'll do something else.
It's too frustrating.
It happens.
Yeah. Now, if again move this forward, and you mentioned to help the incarnated spirit. Yeah. Now, let's imagine that we get to a point in which we are fairly settled. We have a reliable guidance and all that. We want to work. And another thing that I hear I see a lot is this idea that a contact is top down. Let's say we receive and take and take. But the medium's work is not quite that. Not only that, is it? The communication goes both ways. It's a dialogue that goes both ways, isn't it?
I would say that I prefer to consider a medium as a receiver of a message.
Mm-hmm.
The job description of the medium is you will receive the message. You will not adulterate the message. You will deliver the message to a further evaluation. In case your message may create any harm or distress, you keep it for yourself. As a medium, you should not be on big mouth talking about that. I see that, I hear that. No. There's a kind of job description for a medium,
Yeah.
if you will, right?
Yes.
And of course, we interact with the spiritual world. But the function from the medium comes from the top to us. When I mean the top, just coming from the spiritual world to us.
Yeah.
Not the other way around. The other way around, there are risks. And the medium should work receiving information, passing through. So there are some variations. I'm trying to be very simple here, but basically a medium is a pipe of water. The water comes from an end, the water goes out.
Right.
I would not do the other way around.
How could you do the other way around?
You know that I'm learning how to use this thing here, right? And I see here that Vanessa and Ebony, they said hi. Hi guys.
Hello.
Right. So, hey.
Yes.
Another, I may be going a little bit away from what we have discussed before, but we spoke about one thing that's really a showstopper for a medium, right? Animism. That I hope I had gave a little glance of how not so negative is what people think, right? Mm-hmm. And another thing that is really a showstopper, especially for beginners, is that people think that when I'm having a communication, the spirits will remain in my body. The spirits may decide to stay. I don't want that. This body is mine. So it doesn't help. Doesn't help some movies we see around Hollywood, but it doesn't work like that, right? There's no spirit coming inside your body, right? So don't need to be afraid about that. And there's a third point that is also preventing a lot of people to start, is that what if the message received is for a low-grade spirit? Does it mean that I'm a low-grade spirit too? I don't want to be seen like that. I want to receive high-grade spirits, because then everybody will think that I'm top-notch. That's a massive mistake too. In the reality, it doesn't matter the degree of evolution or whatever from the spirit that is communicating through the medium.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, if it would be a sad state of affairs if we, as mediums, we were limited to levels, to degrees, like a caste, there would be like meets like-minded meets like-minded. Not really. So I think a medium that's mature and developed and settled would be able to receive, let's say, more refined messages, but wouldn't be afraid of doing the charity of listening, of receiving from others, or being the means for charity to be done to spirits. They're not so evolved. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Because you can't. Because I think just like we are on this side, on this dimension, on the other dimension, people carry on as they were. They evolve. Some are more evolved, some are less evolved. They all need to communicate. Some need to have lessons to impart, have education to share. But what happens to those who feel lost? Let's imagine those ones who depart but they were completely oblivious. They were completely disconnected. Um, um, they had no idea, or they did not care about any idea of the continuation of life, for example.
Hey, something, and those lines came to my mind. Segregation of the spiritual world.
That's a good word.
I'm prepared to receive doctors. I'm prepared to receive deceased presidents. I'm prepared to receive Hollywood stars. I'm prepared to receive top-notch spirits.
Yeah.
That's all I'm prepared. Here in my spirit center, sorry, no. Here in our regiment here, we have some rules, and we have a checklist here on the door, and I can see that you are not. You cannot. Sorry.
You don't have a signed PhD only.
I. But sorry. I see that you are suffering. I feel sorry for you, but you cannot come here. Here we have a name to maintain, so you cannot come here. In another center, yes, we receive spirits. They want to have some conversation. But if you are a very suffering spirit, like, now, sorry, we are here. We are okay to receive this. We are okay to do that. We need to have the comprehension that we should be open to charity. Mediumship is charity. It's the best tool we could have to perform charity. If a spirit need to communicate, we are there as a medium to alleviate their sorrow, but we are also there to alleviate their pain. So we cannot segregate. You can, you cannot. No, it doesn't make sense. You don't find that anywhere in Kardec. If you do, please send me the information. I'm really open to learn new things. But I could not find that in Kardec. He never said to one spirit in Paris, sorry, excusez-moi, c'est pas possible ici. No. He never said that. Not that I know. On the other hand, he was also using that opportunity to learn, to making questions, and to help the spirit. So I'm not saying that people that are not prepared should do everything. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we need to prepare ourselves to be able to help every spirit. Because one thing will happen, if you like or not, we're not going to be here forever. And I'm pretty sure that if you one day we decide to go and knock in one Spiritist center door, someone says to us, sorry, not for you here, you will not be very happy. Or you will suffer a little bit more for a little bit longer. So I think segregation is a strong word that we should not contemplate at all.
And can I ask you, I think I have an idea, but can I ask you, how could these, we talk of suffering spirits, or how could people help? How could charity be done to those who find themselves suffering somehow? When people talk about suffering spirits, there's always a very,
Suffering
I
is a
think,
very, very
blurred and
broad,
negative image. Yeah,
it's a very broad term. When we
yeah,
talk about suffering, it's just to try to, in the lack of better words, to make a difference of evolved and not so evolved spirits, like we are. I'm not so evolved spirits at all,
mm,
right? So the thing is, when you have a pain, you need assistance. Where you go? To the hospital.
yeah,
You broke your arm. I don't think you're going to the pub. You're going to the hospital, right?
yeah.
The Spiritist Center is a hospital with open doors to receive everyone, and we treat everyone. If you are suffering anything, you are suffering in spirit already, because you're suffering something. So we are not making a difference of degrees of suffering. You're suffering.
Yeah.
Perhaps it's nothing physical. You don't feel pain in your perispirit, or you don't, but your mind needs someone that you can talk. Sometimes just a conversation. Sometimes just a conversation. But sometimes you can do some intervention, a more in-depth intervention to help the spirit. The most important is, how can we help the spirits? Going back to the original question, right? We all can pray anytime, anywhere. But to those that are mediums, when the spirit comes to the proximity of the medium, he's helped by our energy, by our fluids. When he communicates through the medium, even if you don't know, even if he does not say a word, if he stays quiet for the whole 5 minutes of the communication, 10 minutes, you are helping him already. It's like a blood transfusion, if you like. You are filtering his blood, if you like. So the most important is, be available to help. Be available to help. And be committed when you decide to engage on those activities. Be committed. Because, sorry, today, like the other day here, we had the Huggy March. It was a very good for friends. So, sorry, my British friends, but it was very nice for friends. So, today I need to see that game.
But why is this discipline needed? Why is it necessary to have this discipline? Aren't they just free on the other side?
Discipline is what makes you have a purpose. Discipline is what makes us moving forward. The excess of discipline may be a problem. Excess of discipline may become lack of charity. And then I'll have a lot of people coming to say, but Emmanuel said to Chico, discipline, discipline, and discipline. But he never said excess of discipline. He said discipline to reinforce. Yes, discipline is a must. But some people sometimes misunderstand what discipline is. It becomes something else. And then, something that I used to say, if anyone on the Spiritist doctrine try to prevent you to perform charity, to help someone, in the name of anything else, question yourself about what is going on. If any moment in time, the Spiritism, in any shape or form, prevent you to do charity, I would suggest open the Gospel. Check example by example from Jesus. I don't think he would refrain to perform charity. I don't think. That's my personal point of view. But I never saw in the Spiritism, I'm sorry, let me correct myself. I never saw in Kardec anything that could prevent me to do charity. I may decide not to do because I'm lazy, because I'm not, whatever. But I never saw in Kardec anything that prevent me to do charity.
A question. If suppose I have this request, I know that there's someone in need of help, and I feel that I'm not prepared. I'm not strong enough, good enough, or ready for that. Could my prayer, could I pray for someone else to approach and help? Could I help in any way?
You help with the prayer. And if you feel that you're not up to the task yet, because sometimes we are not, we can always try to ask for help of someone that is more familiar with that kind of tasks, that know a little bit more than we do. And sometimes there are things we cannot do by ourselves. We need to have a team working together to be able to achieve a good result. And one thing that to people that have those possibilities, ask your benefactor. There's a lot of spiritists afraid about asking the benefactor what he thinks would be better to do in that situation. If you think you don't have a benefactor, ask your guardian angel. What should I do? How can I help this person here safely? What time is it? I have 3 minutes, so I'll give a simple example here. We used to have, when I was in Brazil, I used to be part of a team that used to go in places that people that could not move themselves by themselves to go to a spiritist center. And the great majority of them, they had serious problems, right? And we were instructed by the benefactors of the center to be together first, to have a quick reading, a quick study, and to see who we would visit that particular day. And we were told by the benefactors more than once, wait a little bit. We need to go there first. We need to prepare the place so you can go. Another day, we were low in numbers. And the benefactor said, to go over there, you need to have minimum 3 mediums. Otherwise, you won't be safe. So we need to work with our benefactors. And Spiritists today may have some fear to work with their benefactors. And then I have a question. Do you trust your benefactors or not? Do you trust in the spirits you are familiar with, that you are working for a period of years? Do you trust them or not? So let's work with them.
That would be a question.
So, yes, we are now coming to our time. Faye, I think you have lots of questions.
Oh, yes. The question is, how do I know I have a benefactor? I don't feel anything.
We have 1 minute more.
There you go.
We all have one spirit that is responsible to guide us through our existence. One thing. Benefactor. We start to have benefactors because we don't have only one. We have one benefactor depending on the type of work you are available to do. Depending on the type of work you do, you have more than one. Sometimes you have a team working with you.
And is this for everyone?
I believe that to have benefactors, first I need to make myself available to work, to study, to practice, and to improve myself morally.
Okay.
And then you have a better chance to have a benefactor. We have a guardian angel, a benefactor, like a guide or however you want to call, will come based on the symphony, on the vibrations that you may share. If you don't put an effort to be a better person, to study, if you are not committed enough with what you pretend to do, I think it'll be a bit more difficult.
Thank you. Thank you very
So,
much.
Faye, that was my personal point of view. Right?
And I'd love to hear it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So, guys, it's our time. That was a pleasure to be here once again. And I will show now some of the activities we have on SSL. And Faye, would you like to say anything before we wrap up?
Oh, no, just thank you once again to you and everyone for the wonderful opportunity. I hope this has been helpful and enlightening. Feel free to ask questions if we got that we can answer. If not tonight, some other time.
Thank you very much, everyone. I would like to say that I would like you all to make a lot of questions in the next time to talk to Rafael and Faye. They are really desperate to answer. So I wish you all a lot of fun. And let me now show you guys the SSL activities. God be with you all.
Okay. Good night.
We have here every Monday Astral City study with Ebony. It's a very nice study. I really recommend. If you want to know a little bit more about the spiritual world, that's the way to go. We have Coffee Break with Kardec. We have a wonderful Munir speaking about Genesis. He brings a nice pot with science and the spiritual. We do have the Medium's book study every Saturday morning. We also have a spiritual light every Wednesday with very interesting topics. And now, on the first Sunday of every month, we have a lot of nice people gathering together to bring a very nice work about Gabriel Delan. He's one of the precursors of the Spiritism, and he's very into science, so I also strongly recommend it. So, I wish you all a wonderful day, a wonderful evening, whenever you are. God be with you all. Bye-bye.